Flying is one of those Beatles songs that not everyone loves. I think it's safe to say. It's one of the songs that might appear on a list of the worst Beatles songs. However, for me, I don't think it's their worst song. I'll say that right at the beginning. No, I think Flying is good for what it is. It's a instrumental song, and it's really the only instrumental song that the Beatles ever officially put out. Just to go over a little bit more of a backstory, it appeared on the 1967 album Magical Mystery Tour, which was based off of the film of the same name. It holds the title of one of the few songs credited to all four members of the band, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. That's because the song was based on a classic 12-bar blues progression that all four of them wrote together. It features mellotron, guitar, bass, maracas, drums, and sound effects. Originally, it was called the Aerial Tour Instrumental, and it was shown in the movie over some cloud footage and some footage of Dr. Strangelove. The Beatles did record another instrumental song in 1965 that they scrapped. They just called that one 12-bar original, and eventually that one did end up on the anthology in the 90s. There aren't any lyrics, but there are some vocals, if you want to call it that. It's some singing from all four members, like Laws and Oz. Like I said, I think it's a good song. I don't really skip any songs from Magical Mystery Tour. I have gone on record saying that's probably my favorite Beatles album, so makes sense that one of the songs from there would be one that I like. So anyway, yeah, I think Flying is a good song for what it is. It's unique in that it's the only real official instrumental song from the 1960s at least, before the anthology series. But I wanted to see what the internet thought of this song. So I thought it'd be interesting to see what other people have said in some comments about this song. From a Beatles subreddit here, we have a user who says, I absolutely love Flying. It has such a lazy, drifting feel, and the insane mixing just tickles me. Absolutely every instrument squashed into one side of the left-right spectrum for a good long chunk at the start. Then that beautiful plucked guitar comes in and just opens it up in stereo. Have you heard the original ending with the cha vocals and the swing groove with the mellotron? Crazy. I love the experimental meandering Beatle productions from 67 post-Pepper. And so, yeah, the mixing techniques from that time were definitely interesting, to say the least. You might have just the vocals coming out of one side and just the instruments coming out of the other, which some people love it, some people hate it. So I just checked out the other version that Redditor mentioned, and wow, that's really cool. It sounds almost like a whole other song, like something from the 1930s, swing jazz kind of thing, and I like that. That was cool. We have another Reddit user who said, it's certainly my favorite Beatles instrumental. So I would have to agree with you on that by default. Another user has said that MMT, which is short for Magical Mystery Tour, has no weak spots. And I would upvote that comment if I could in an audio way. But seriously, I agree that album is a solid listen all the way through. This is an interesting comment where this person said, gotta love the vibe. Kinda anticipates that Blur and Gorillaz sound of the mid-2000s. I think I can see that a little bit. This is funny. Someone asked, what are some of your favorite lyrics? And the response was, "Ata." We have another deleted account that left a comment that says, I find it difficult to have any sort of strong opinion on this. Out of all their post-MMT tracks, this is the one I find to be the most just there track. It's certainly a solid transition into Blue Jay Way, but that's it. Was genuinely surprised to find so many big 10s and 9s in this thread. I guess it's the subjectivity of art at play again. Still far from the worst, even on Magical Mystery Tour it's better than at least two other songs, and it's not actively annoying, i.e. I'd rather hear this than the title track. I wouldn't skip. I give this a 7 out of 10. It's a fine sound. And for me personally, I like the title track for Magical Mystery Tour, so I would have to disagree with that statement, but I get where they're coming from. I definitely do. Someone else pointed out that it's one of the few songs that all four Beatles sing on, and that is true. There's not a lot where all four of them are on it. You might have George helping John and Paul quite often, really, but to also have Ringo with the other three is fairly unique. Someone said it was their ringtone for 7 years. That would make a pretty good ringtone, I would think. We have someone that rated it a 7.3, and they said, I appreciate the song more than I like to actually listen to it, if that makes sense. And I think that does make sense. Yeah, you can appreciate where its place was. It was just really written for the movie. It was supposed to be more or less background music. We have another user that said 8 out of 10. I wish they had done more of these. And I agree, because I think I would much rather have another instrumental like this than another Wild Honey Pie, for example. We have someone with username Evan or something said 8 out of 10. Favorite song on the album, no joke. That's cool. I don't think too many people would say that's their favorite. That's an interesting take. Someone said, personally, it's a 10 out of 10. Is it an objective 10? No, I wouldn't really say so. However, this is a comfort song for me, usually listened to whenever I just need to be lazy and drift off into space, which has become very often recently. It's just so peaceful, serene, and calming for me that I'd feel wrong about this score personally if I didn't give it a 10. Not to mention, it also makes for one hell of a listen while stoned. Okay, so I understand where they're coming from with this one. I can relate to the first part, especially where it's if you were trying to lie down and relax, this is a really good, relaxing song. I can't really relate to the second half, but I understand where they're coming from, which brings us to another comment where someone said, reminds me of trying shrooms. 1967 was definitely the height of that kind of phase for the Beatles, if that's not too surprising. I think that might have been what they were doing that day. One of many possibilities. And to look at a few other comments here from Song Facts, on a related note, this comment from someone named Chloe, I really relate to this because when I first heard Magical Mystery Tour, I have to guess that I was somewhere around 10 years old. I don't know exactly how old I was. So I knew what being high was in concept, although I'd never been high, right? But listening to Magical Mystery Tour front to back on cassette tape on headphones was the trippiest thing I'd ever done in my life up until that point. And I think part of the thing that sold me on the Beatles so quickly was just how different I felt after listening to it. Like it put me in a different headspace with no hangover and no addiction. So that's, not to make light of that, but it was really something where it got my own creativity sparked just by listening to what these guys were doing. And all the songs were so unique and different. And you could just go over the lyrics and try to come up with what they were trying to get at, especially on songs like I Am the Walrus and Strawberry Fields Forever, where they're being very poetic and strange in a beautiful way. So this person said, seriously trippy stuff. I sometimes find myself needing a break when listening to Magical Mystery Tour songs. You get a bit too high, but seriously, who would ever need drugs with these songs around? So yeah, I have to agree with Chloe on that statement. And we have someone named Eric who said, I really like the video in Magical Mystery Tour is very cool too. Fits the song perfectly. So many different colors and such. Why did the BBC air the movie in black and white? And that's a great point. This movie didn't do that well. And a big reason for that is probably because it was aired in black and white. Like, why would you air a psychedelic 60s song in black and white? That's incredibly irresponsible and probably killed it from the get-go, because you don't have the budget for the Beatles, really. You can't make an exception for them. I think that was a really bad move. Then we have someone named Sal who said, it sounds like the Booker T and the MGs doing psychedelic music. It's a trippy space rock song with a great backward mellotron ending that sounds like Radiohead copied directly from one of their songs. Yeah, and I can see where you're coming from with all that. I'm just picturing that song Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs and that little, I think it's an organ that they're using in that song, though, not a mellotron, but I can picture that. And another comment said that the song is stuck in their head, which is they're pointing out that for an instrumental song, that's a little bit different too, but I can see that because the mellotron leads and the tape loops and all the little lead melodies that are being played throughout are very catchy. And so even without the Beatles singing, you still get all these melodies and harmonies and things that make them great. So that's another cool thing to mention. But from another Reddit post, we have someone who claims that Flying is one of the best Beatles songs, stating that it's funny, trippy, mellow, whimsical, catchy. Check out the Secret Machines cover of Flying for the 2007 film Across the Universe. So I didn't actually know that there was a cover from Across the Universe. I don't remember hearing the song in the movie, so maybe it's just part of the soundtrack, but definitely going to check that out too. So yeah, the general consensus on this one is it's pretty trippy. I think it's safe to say that this isn't one that most online top 10 lists would rank as number 5 or 4. It's going to be one of those ones that has its place. So I definitely don't think it deserves being on a worst song list. There's nothing inherently wrong with the song. If it's not your thing to listen to an instrumental, then that makes sense. The Beatles' voices are some of the best in rock. For all 4 of them are such great singers that to miss out on those voices definitely feels lacking in that respect. I can get why, if you did skip it, you want to get to the next song that has some singing in it. And I'm not blaming anyone for that. But if you haven't given it much of a shot, if you want to listen to Magical Mystery Tour all the way through, definitely don't skip it and hear how it segues into Blue Jay Way right after. And I think you'll be surprised. It's only like a couple minutes long. All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in for our little discussion. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. Maybe learned a thing or two. But let me know what your thoughts are on Flying and Magical Mystery Tour and any other Beatles or rock music related topic you want to bring up. Feel free to leave a comment and give your opinion. Love it or hate it, let us know. And I'll see you next time.